Middle yeah.
Yeah, hey, babes.
Give myself some chest tightness on that one. I was doing my best Major League Baseball umpire there.
I haven't seen any good umpire. Remember, Bochy had a pretty legendary one, either his last or second to last year at the Dodgers, where he just fucking lost it. We don't get enough of those anymore. Boone had the one
Aaron
last
Boone.
year. What was his? Savages.
Yeah. Savages in the box. Brett Gardner usually starts it banging on the inside of the dugout. Yeah.
Terry Collins had the legendary one. After
our ass is in the jackpot.
Yeah, they couldn't throw it at Chase Utley, and I miss Terry Collins, who was good friends with Howard Mudd, R.I.P.
Oh man,
remember I told the story. Terry Collins showed up at the Eagles facility to see Howard in his uni.
Oh, because he could walk from the stadiums right next to each other.
Yeah, he could walk. He came to the offices in his uni and just a pair of tennis shoes. I saw him walking up the hallway. I'm like, Mets? There he was.
I mean, is anything more out of place than a full baseball uniform?
Walking down the street, guy, in his full uni, like a 72-year-old.
Like a kid with his mom at the grocery store after baseball practice.
Incredible.
Hey, everybody, here's the deal. No mailbag this week because you guys left us reviews, but you're only putting a few you're leaving comments. We need questions for the mailbag. So iTunes, leave us a mailbag question. We appreciate that you just send us love. Tell us your favorite bar to hang out at, and we'll fire that bad boy back up next week.
Yep. You have to go to Apple iTunes, leave a review, leave a question. You can also go to the Facebook page, Haberman Middlecoff on Facebook, search it, leave a question on one of the posts. All of our podcasts, because of this thing, Zuckerberg didn't, but one of his little minions, who's probably not a little minion, he's probably some multimillionaire, created this thing. You can just listen to the podcast by pressing it on Facebook. It's pretty cool. Leave a question under there. We will also find it, and it's very easy to do. Gotta leave questions, and we'll do the mailbag.
Yeah, it seems like people are just don't know about the mailbag. They're just leaving reviews.
Yeah,
we appreciate.
I probably wasn't strong enough hammering it home. Sometimes you throw it to me and I'm not paying attention. I'm like, hey, questions, our people.
Yes, do that. We appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, we have a podcast. The description is down below. If you're listening to the podcast, we have a YouTube channel. Go check that out. One other little announcement is that around 4:30, we'll get the link up early Sunday, so you'll know exactly the timing of it. But we'll be doing pregame for Sunday Night Football. YouTube only. Podcast will come after the Niner-Packer game, but YouTube only pregame on the Haberman and Middlecoff YouTube channel. So be sure to join us for that around 4:30 Pacific or so. We'll nail that down this weekend.
Pretty big game Sunday night. Can't wait. And then obviously Sunday podcast will be out Monday, early morning. Be late night,
Yeah, it will be. But,
it's the price of doing this tough job, guy.
Out of respect for the blue-collar workers, medium blue-collar operation we got. Right.
Yeah, Saint,
For all of you listening to this while you're like shoveling hot tar, like you guys are more blue-collar than us. But
now, in fairness, I saw PG&E just did a big operation around my condo complex. While there was some very, very tough labor going, also several other people standing around watching. So if you had the shovel in your hand, work was hard. If you were the dude that was like Middlecoff standing there just kind of watching, job not that difficult. Another guy out on the street with a sign, he was listening to music. So it just depends.
Well, one guy recognized.
One guy recognized, yeah, Middlecoff.
Shout out to that guy. Yeah. See that guy. He's
that
like
guy.
On the 46. Wasn't a starter, but he's there. Rotate in 15
he's ready.
snaps.
Everyone has a role. Everyone has a role.
This podcast is sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka, John. Tito's Handmade Vodka, as good as it gets. As somebody in the chat just said, all they buy now is Tito's. Where'd that go? Here we go. Blake. All I drink now. Yeah, thanks, Blake.
Well, you know what the key is, guy? On a football weekend, on a sports week, on an American weekend, the Ryder Cup, chanting USA as guys are coming out. It's a fantastic sports weekend, which equals us as guys watching a lot of, as they say in Mexico, deportes, watching a lot of sports. And I know what you guys do when you watch sports. You drink. Tito's. Take us pictures, tweet it at us, Instagram, and tag us any cocktail, whether it's a Tito's and soda, whether it's a John Daly, whether it's a foo-foo drink, whether it's a martini, whatever you're drinking, show us, tag us, and show us your Tito's drink. And I know a lot of you guys go into the stores, the Krogers. I don't even know if they have Krogers out here.
Yeah, the H-E-B.
Yeah, Safeways, the Albertsons, Targets, you name it. I mean, gas station. If you go buy a handle, take us that. I love a good picture of just like the handle sitting in the back seat. You know, like, hey, head home, just load it up. Yeah, closed. Yeah, you're drinking responsibly.
Yep, but absolutely. But it's the best, John. It is number one. Those of you who didn't try it before and have tried it now, hey, you know. Those of you that knew about it before probably added some legitimacy to us that Tito's jumped on board, just like with the PGA Tour, John. Kelvin on YouTube says, only drink Tito's and bring it to parties because of Ham. Yes, nobody is going to be like, you walked in with Tito's? What would you? They'll be like, oh, my God, you brought the Tito's. Thank you. Thank you. So you're welcome. Be that person that gets the thank you. Tito's handmade vodka, America's original craft vodka, 6-time distilled in copper pots, not columns. It's better. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Remember this part. This is important. Crafted to be savored responsibly. Okay, let's all keep our heads out there. Do the right
I had some time to kill on Wednesday. Wasn't feeling great. Beautiful day, and I looked at myself. I'm like, I could use a tan. So went down to the pool. Just laid down, listened to a podcast for like 30 minutes. Girl comes also that lives in the complex, sits there too. We start talking. Picks my brain what I do. It just came up about Tito's, and then I go, you want a bottle? She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, I'll go up to my place and grab you a bottle for you and your husband. She was like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm dead serious. You want a bottle of Tito's? I have a case, so I will give them to you. I think people sometimes are shocked when they're like, Tito's, really? I'm like, yeah, Tito's, really. I mean,
I give one to the mail person every day. I give them another bottle. So here, thank you. Devin from Tito's gave me like 9 cases of this stuff. I'm drinking it, but I'm not drinking it fast enough because I'm savoring responsibly,
Yeah, that's key.
Podcast also brought to you by mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1. Mybookie.ag, promo code HAM and the number 1, where right now you can find it all, John. That's where we're going to make our lock of the week and our dud of the week bet. MyBookie will match that deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000.
Anyone watching this right now on YouTube, if you want to gamble, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't quite dabbled, and everywhere you look, people talking gambling. Well, here's what you do. If you like this podcast, support us, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. You can gamble on everything. I mean everything, right? Football, clearly, college and pro, a million props, live betting. Basketball, I guess training camp starts next week. You clearly gamble on the NBA. Baseball playoffs are right here. I think there's usually pretty good value on a quote-unquote underdog in the playoffs. A Cardinals, a Brewers, a White Sox. Like, you can sometimes get a team like that to win the World Series, like 10, 12, 15 to 1. That's something to keep an eye on whenever in the next couple weeks when the playoff seeding is set. Just I want to look at. I like taking a flyer, even just $100 if you can get it like 15 to 1. It's a little golf tournament-y because we've seen it twice with the Giants. Definitely in 14, they came in and all of a sudden they won the World Series. You probably could have got them. I bet like 20, 25 to 1 that year to win the World Series.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd love to see the historical odds on that if somebody has that. So what we're doing is we're doing a lock of the week and dud of the week. We went 0 for 1 with a push week 1. We went 2-0 week 2.
No big deal.
And this week, it's not easy this week. It's not, but you know what, John? It's not supposed to be easy. Okay, no. Anything worth doing, not easy. So we considered a lot. Let's settle in, though. Where are we on our lock of the week this week? It was 8 when we made the decision. It's now 8.5. Ravens. This is not what is normally recommended. Fundamentals of betting, 8.5 points on the road. We did it week 1 with the Niners, and we got to push on 8.
Our fundamentals, though, philosophically, this is what we do, right? This is a sharp would tell you this gets risky. The Haberman and Middlecoff podcast, when we've had success, this was our philosophy. We took a playoff team against a team that we've envisioned drafting in the top 5, and we have been, when we stuck with it, and it gets a little boring, we have been very successful. When we've shied away, it's where you can get a little dicey. Because I was trying to push upon you Broncos minus 10.5 against the Jets. Now, I think we all agree the Jets are going to draft in the top 5. But are the Broncos a lock playoff team? They played the Jags and the Giants. So probably not, even though they're 2-0, and they'll probably be 3-0. The Ravens, I feel pretty good. They got this guy, Lamar Jackson. I like this bet. I feel pretty good.
Lions have yet to put together more than like 2.5 quarters of football. We're taking what we think is a good team against what we know is a bad team. Your Broncos bet, this is the thing. We talk through it. One bet fails, and we get it, and I told you so from one of us to the other one. Like, we should have gone with what I wanted. I could see Zach Wilson having not a bounce back game per se, but not another 4 interception game for sure.
Well, he's going to have some good games. My pushback there would be I have a hard time envisioning him doing that in Denver versus Fangio.
I'm not saying good game. I'm just saying not. I think like people are jumping on right now after the game he had last week to kill him. And this is where I don't 4 interception game, easy to kill a guy.
See, I close my eyes and picture Patrick Surtain running toward the Broncos end zone with the ball in his hands.
There was a penalty on the play, John. It got called back.
Yeah.
And then, so that's our lock. Our dud of the week. I mean, we determined Falcons-Giants is the dud.
It's the worst game.
And so we're going to go Giants -3 just because they're the home team.
Yeah. Don't feel great about this at all. But this is a shitty game because we were going back and forth like the Jags, Arizona. Yeah, the Jags are a dud team, but Arizona's just not. And that would be what we stood for on this game, a terrible game that no human, unless you're a diehard fan of that team, would want to spend 1 second watching. And that is this game. Like if I don't see one play besides for the ticker and then the Giants are up 10 most of the game and us feeling good, that's all I want to see. I don't need to see one play.
Dud is designed to get us engaged in a game that we would otherwise not pay any attention to.
Yeah.
Remember, if you use the promo code HAM1, you have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. You can also decline that bonus if you choose to. But either way, you can use HAM1 and let them know that we sent you.
Yes, you can.
All right. Will there be bad blood on Sunday Night Football between the Packers and the 49ers this week? On Thursday, Mike Silver put together a 10-tweet thread. I don't know if you've ever put together a 10-tweet thread, John. I have not. A 10-tweet thread. Should I read it? You want to read this thread for people that haven't seen it? Or just summarize it?
I'd go summarize because it is, but I mean, 240 characters times 10 is, 2,400
A lot of
words.
characters. A lot of characters involved in this thread. Wednesday, Matt LaFleur said he holds no ill will towards Kyle Shanahan, longtime friend and colleague. But the Rodgers situation before the draft created a lot of drama between LaFleur, Shanahan, their mutual friends and coaching colleagues last spring, John. One in particular story underscores that strain. Minutes before the 2021 draft, Mike McDaniel, Niners OC, was FaceTiming with Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, who's Matt's younger brother. Those two are in Jersey. They're in charge of the Jets. McDaniel's office was open. Some other Niners coaches come in. They're bullshitting with each other. My words, not his. And Shanahan comes into the room. Now, a couple hours earlier, NFL Word had been rocked by reports that Rodgers' desire to leave Green Bay and a report that the Niners have called the Packers, Shanahan to LaFleur, to inquire about the trade. Now the Niners are getting ready to pick 3rd overall. The Jets had the 2 pick. Somebody in the room, Shanahan says to Saleh and Mike LaFleur, I hope you guys don't take a different quarterback and cross us up. We haven't looked that hard at Wilson.
That in itself is a little crazy, but keep going.
Yeah, second time Shanahan's admitted to not doing his due diligence on all the quarterbacks. What do you mean? We already got our quarterback, said Mike LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers. You already got your quarterback, says Mike LaFleur of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Shanahan tries to brush it off as a joke. He says, hey, tell your brother to call me back. He hasn't returned my calls. Mike LaFleur says, can you blame him? At that point, according to Mike Silver, Shanahan gets upset, hastily leaves the room. In his eyes, he was merely doing his due diligence on behalf of the franchise. To Mike LaFleur, it was clear that blood is thicker than water. Garth Brooks once sang about that. Sunday night approaches. It's heartening that Matt LaFleur and Shanahan are downplaying any tension. They're both accomplished coaches, and the NFL is a stressful business. As for now, Rodgers remains property of the Packers. I don't know if you're allowed to use that language. Okay.
One thing you left out that just stands in my mind on the thread was like the Packers thought there was some funny business because John Lynch and Aaron Rodgers are both represented by David Dunn. So, some connection, some back channeling, just some funny business going on. Yeah. I still don't quite understand. There's clearly more to it than just, why would he or, why would he call you back, right? Why would Shanahan get so worked up? Like something else had to be said for him to get super pissed off and storm out of the room, I feel like.
Yeah,
surrounding the situation.
So first things first, if we're accepting this whole 10-tweet thread premise and we're going to dive into it, right?
I think Silver is pretty tied in with just the Shanahan crew. Like, I feel pretty confident. Like, those guys, Aaron Rodgers' boy, he's known Mike since the, 1992. I do trust Silver pretty high level on this, that even if it's not 100%, it's probably closer to 90 than it is 50, right?
Well, let me say this. Yes, I agree with you. Because I think there are some people who go, Silver, I got a few replies like this. Like, Silver's a hack. I don't believe anything he says. Like, well, I mean, believe whatever you want, but he knows a lot of the interested parties here. So a couple things I would say. I don't think from the evidence, from the things that we think happened, Kyle did anything wrong. But I would say if you did something wrong and you're feeling a little guilty about it, getting pissed when someone calls you on it is probably the first reaction, right?
Yeah.
If you were to feel a little guilty about something. Or if
Phil
you're like,
you're a Raider hater. Fuck you.
Yeah, like, but you are. But so that's the first thing. That would be, if you're asking the question, why would it bother Kyle? That could be the first thing. It's like he wasn't doing anything wrong, but he also didn't totally feel good about it. And he wished he didn't have to be in that situation. That could be possible. Also, like, he might be saying, no, I'm doing my job. You're doing your job. Like, let's separate I'm not trying to screw you guys. But if you weren't the coach of the Packers, I would be inquiring on Aaron Rodgers. And so I still have to do that for what's best for my organization. How dare you treat me like my priority is to you as a friend and not they're paying me $28 million or whatever to be in charge of this organization here.
I think where this gets very complicated is I think that's pretty nuts how tight all these guys are. And then you realize, like, LaFleur, not the Green Bay Packers coach, but the offensive coordinator with the Jets, and Saleh were just there for 4 years. Like, they are really tight, right? That group that's just very tight-knit little crew. I do understand from Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, his career success in the future, right? What he's already had, very tied to Aaron Rodgers. In the future, very tied to Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, right? If you finally got a girlfriend and then you got married and she's just a dime and you're in love head over heels and you're just like, I'm going to have the greatest life for the next 50 years I could have possibly ever had. And all of a sudden you feel like someone's going to take that away from you. And then you go, that's my connect. We were boys. We're all in this crew together. We are considered shoulder to shoulder as like, we're the group taking over the NFL, all of us, and now it feels like you're kind of trying to fuck me in a shady way. Not that you inquired. I think it gets back to, were you guys working the back channels? Now, part of it, if you're LaFleur, it's like your quarterback, if he's working the back channels, he probably was the one that went to Lynch, right? Or potentially. So it's not just there. They weren't actively like, do you think we could just randomly, out of nowhere, it'd be, if a story came out, they had reached out to Tom Brady's people and see if the Tampa Bay Bucs would trade Tom Brady now to the Niners. They were willing to take Tom and see if he wanted to come up. They'd be like, what? That's not what happened here. They, to me, were alerted. And like you said, yeah, you're my friend. I love your brother, Saleh, who you were the best man at the wedding. Like, all these connections, guy, are more powerful than just your typical, they worked on the same staff for 3 years, right? It's like me and you if we had like 5 other people. It's a very tight-knit deal. But I think LaFleur is taking his anger out on Kyle when really it's more Aaron. Yeah, and Kyle had to follow up.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that complicates it, right, is that Aaron is under contract with the Packers. So if you're LaFleur, don't call me, and I don't know this is what happened, but maybe this is how he's viewing it. Don't call me and act like this is the first call you've made about this situation if you've already talked, or somebody on your side has already talked to Aaron, right? That's
like,
what
hey,
you would,
bro. Any thought about Rodgers for pick 3?
I just saw this
Schefter
tweet. News to me, but right, like that's where you're LaFleur. You'd be pissed if you didn't believe that first call was actually the first inquisition.
But he doesn't, and he shouldn't,
and he doesn't, and he shouldn't. But if Aaron Rodgers is trying to get himself to the 49ers, is that the 49ers' fault?
No, that's my point. Like, that's like, if your wife is the one reaching out to other people, it's hard to get mad at the guy that she ends up with, even if he's your friend. I mean, I understand it, but like, she was the one that initiated the talk. Rodgers was the one that initiated all this. If he had never said anything and just stayed quiet and never went to Hawaii with the tellers and just been like, I'm a Packer, I love the Packers, we're going to win the Super Bowl in 2021, the Niners never would have asked. This wasn't an out of the blue. They were contacted. I think that's pretty clear, right?
I'm not mad at the SEC because Texas and Oklahoma wanted to leave the Big 12 to come to the SEC, right? It's not the SEC's job to not pick up the phone. And this 100%. Is a little different. There's no tampering rules in college football. Conferences can try to steal teams, right? In sports, it's very clear. Like I, as the owner of one team or the coach of one team, cannot reach out to a player who's under contract on another team.
Here's where I can't understand if LaFleur was pissed off. If LaFleur didn't know about it, let's just assume he didn't know Aaron was all mad at Gutekunst. Like it was quiet and they weren't alerted to his anger at their inability to alert him to anything that's going on in the organization. They're just, in the clouds or whatever. And all of a sudden Kyle gets wind of this, that Kyle doesn't reach out to him and be like, hey bro, you got a quarterback problem. He's reaching out to us saying to trade for him. I could understand from his point, like Kyle, we've known each other for a decade plus. Our families are now tied together. It wouldn't even be crazy if one day if you heard like one of the LaFleur's godfather was kind of like we are in the solid like you wouldn't tip me off to this. I understand it's competitive balance, but over my fucking dead body I would ever trade you, Rodgers. Why wouldn't you tell me like we have a problem? That is to me would be understandable, right? Yeah, instead of calling to ask will you trade my quarterback, like you don't need to act like Bill Belichick here. Just be like, hey man, some weird stuff's going on with Aaron. You and Goot should get together and look into this. That to me would probably be the thing a friend would do. So if you're LaFleur, I could understand hating him after that. Like you tried to fuck me.
Especially the thing that complicates it too, right? Is it feels like there was an expiration date on this whole experience, right? In that like the trade's about to happen tonight. So if we're gonna do it, we got to do it right now.
Like they were going to put him on it. They were going to put LaFleur and Gutekunst back against the wall on a deadline. Like he might not come back to you.
Right,
so
that's what Aaron wanted.
And
we talked about this at the time. That Aaron, to me, the reason that broke when it broke is because Aaron wanted them in a position to have to do something that they wouldn't do if they had 3 weeks to think about it, right? Like, all right, we can get the third pick in the draft. Now, the counter argument would be if you had done it a month earlier, maybe they could have fallen in love with Trey Lance on their own, and maybe they would have wanted to do the trade, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't think the strategy of it all necessarily worked. It obviously didn't work in the way that we think Aaron wanted it to work. But you're right. There is a world where you go, hey man, you got a problem, and we will 100% take advantage of that problem if we can. But obviously, we need the Niners do need the Packers in order to do that trade. The Niners can't do that deal without Green Bay.
No.
So in the end, it doesn't do them a lot of good to keep Green Bay in the dark.
Agreed. One problem, though, I see is just from a human element. It's hard to balance when you become really good friends with someone and then you go to competing entities and then you just look at it through the prism of, I'm just worried about me and my team. Like our friendship is separate from the industry we're in, so we have to be really aggressive. I think because of the extreme nature of this one, like what you just said, he could have been like, Kyle, I would never trade him to you. You know that in a million years. So for you to ask and pretend like you're just kind of in the dark is kind of offensive to me.
Well, if I think you started it with him or that you've been talking to him before you talked to me.
But clearly the Niners wouldn't start it with Rodgers. They would need him to reach out, which is pretty obvious that he did, right? Or through his
and you pick up that call, but then the next call is, hey, Packers, here's what's going on. We will 100% do this deal. So you guys go talk to Aaron and you figure out if you can't get it. We want to do a trade right now.
Yeah,
for Aaron Rodgers.
And I would imagine people that are really, really tight, that conversation in situations that are probably much less would be the magnitude of Aaron Rodgers. It could just be like a star corner or something. Those conversations have happened over the years in football, right? With friends. Like, hey man, you got a problem. Just because they're not going to trade him to me. So even if he wants to come to me, he's my friend. Listen, I'm not even worth my headache. But I bet there's been other instances where that has not happened. So it's just the nature of, I'd just say the business, right? I mean, sometimes business, you got to worry about yourself first.
I don't want to be wrong about this. I don't want to speak out of pocket, get my flowers. But if I recall, no cap, that night or the day or two after, am I wrong, or were the stories about how it played out the order of phone calls and the timing of phone calls, did they not quite, was there a little, it was like, wait, I thought you said that so-and-so called so-and-so, but it was John, not Kyle, or it was Kyle. Wasn't there a little bit of difference between the stories that got told like Thursday, Friday, Monday?
I think it's clear where LaFleur is coming from is understandable, right? Looking back, it's hard to blame him. I think every single human being in his seat, that LaFleur, that's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, would have the same reaction. And if Mike Silver is kind of what he's alluding to, is really mad and thinks Kyle would have really fucked him if he could have.
Teams piss each other off all the time. It's just rare that there's like this like 3-team triangle FaceTime going on, right? Teams get pissed.
I don't think it's that weird for the Niners and the Jets to be bullshitting their friends. They're just like, who are you going to draft, messing with each other.
Right. I'm just saying teams piss each other off all the time because I don't care. Right. I'll piss off another GM. I don't give a rip about him. Like this is bloodthirst. But it's rare that there's like so many intertwined relationships in the whole thing, right? And Mike LaFleur, how about Mike LaFleur kind of, obviously Matt had vented to him.
Big time. And Saleh, maybe. Saleh's best man at his wedding. I mean, this is a little off topic, but I mean, it's part of the thread. What if they would have taken Trey Lance? What would the Niners have done?
I know. Taking Mac Jones?
Probably. Because Kyle, like, obviously, remember last year, even in mid-COVID, Adam Peters was at the BYU game. Once, his momentum had kind of started. The scouting staff had watched Zach Wilson, but had Kyle not wasted a minute on him?
That would have been a desperate I said this starting the day after the draft. From what I'd heard, I believed it was not Justin Fields that was after Trey Lance. It was Mac Jones that Kyle had liked. And this is where, we spent so much time killing all the people who said they're drafting Mac Jones. And I've said this since the beginning of it. Like, you can kill all the people who said it's going to be Mac Jones if you want, but I didn't think all that stuff was nothing as we look back on it. Like, I think Kyle liked Mac Jones.
He did. And
there's a lot of evidence that he did.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's a great question. Like, now, would Adam Peters be right there with a booklet as thick on Zach Wilson as he had on Mac Jones going,
you only get 10 minutes.
Kyle, you got 10 minutes. I'm telling you, if you were prepared to take Trey, then you should take Zach.
That could have got dicey fast. That could have got dicey fast. This is a little lesson. Now they don't have a first-round pick for a while. Kyle, you do have some time between like free agency and the draft to just the main position. You might as well just do a little of this tape study. Maybe he falls in love. He just loves hard. So once he finds what he wants, he's all in.
Yeah.
The problem is in the draft, if you're not drafting one, you never know what's going to happen in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, if the Jets had not been the team drafting two, he probably would have had to do some more work, right? Maybe he felt a little comfortable with the Jets based on who was there.
Well, I mean, if they're FaceTiming him day of the draft, it's what we already knew. They are very tight with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But
I mean, Robert Saleh does owe Kyle a lot. Made him a defensive coordinator when no one else would have. First 2 years were ugly. Kyle stuck with him, changed his life, right? Not only made him a famous NFL human, then led to him becoming a head coach. Not that he didn't deserve it, but I mean, you are tied to the person that kind of puts you on the map, right? At the highest of level, and then changes the fortunes of your family.
Right. Yes.
When you're not, I don't think if they were coaching at Miami and he was at the Jet, like, is that happening? It's easy given the teams they're on, right? Joe Douglas, if you're Joe Douglas, do you love that phone call? Like,
no.
Hey, what are we
but
doing
again, that phone call was Mike McDaniel and Mike LaFleur. Yeah, I mean, those guys were probably so fired up. Mike LaFleur and Saleh, they just done all their work. They got their first draft. They're in charge. Mike McDaniel, who called who? Mike McDaniel FaceTimes them just to mess with them. You know, they answer. They're having a good time. So it's wild. I mean, the part of this too is, does it give us more insight on Kyle Shanahan's mindset around the draft and how many irons were really in the fire for the 49ers? This silver thread, right? You and I have talked about this before. Of course they wanted Aaron Rodgers. They wanted Matthew Stafford. You and I believe that wholeheartedly. I think the evidence is there. Kyle has basically said it, so I'm not breaking. I'm not.
Wouldn't you say?
giving-
I mean, in fairness, they wanted Aaron Rodgers. Beside like Mahomes and Chiefs, like every team, if Aaron Rodgers reached out to them through the back channels, would have been immediately interested.
Yeah, but I think don't you think part of this is a result of the way things played out after the 2019 season, where they had a shot at Brady, didn't do it, and I wonder if part of it was like, look, Brady's the GOAT. Both these guys are younger than him, especially Stafford, and I think it again, like the Niners are in a weird spot in that Kyle really probably didn't want from the beginning to draft a quarterback and develop him. He wanted Kirk Cousins, plug and play, let's roll. Like, I don't have time for this. And he probably didn't want, at the heart of it, to like Trey Lance. We're seeing this takes time, and it's no coach would choose to have a $25 million starter and a third overall pick backup and like juggle it this way if they didn't have to. They would want one quarterback who does everything they want. Let's roll. Right.
Well, wouldn't Aaron Rodgers would have trumped Matt Stafford, right? Obviously, that domino was after. He knows the offense, knows the terminology, just won the MVP in the offense with some of his plays too, but Kyle would have, I'm sure, let him run some of those. It's a plug-in, it's baseball. It's like I traded for a third baseman, I plug him in at third base, which is typically not normal in quarterback situations. Favre was talking about it with the Mannings, how the terminology, in different offenses can change. And from what I've heard, pretty good intel, is that they wanted Matt Stafford. Like, remember, that was something that we talked a lot about in probably late February, early March. That was not fake, and the Rams.
And Deshaun. Remember Deshaun too.
And Deshaun too. I mean, that went away. They wanted Matt Stafford, but they didn't get a chance to counter the offer. And so once they got 2 picks, it happened with the Rams. And from what I was heard, Kyle was pissed. So it kind of put him into somewhat of a tailspin, which I think some of that led to the aggressive nature of them trading up. And I think it's pretty clear that when they traded up, I didn't think this at the time, but finding out more information since, you're right. I mean, you've been saying this probably since the jump, like Mac might have been the guy. The problem is, and we talked a little bit about this, before we hopped on today, you couldn't have Mac Jones and Jimmy on the same team. It makes no sense. But Kyle refused. Once you make that big trade, you can't draft Mac and then have him sit behind Jimmy and be out all these first-round picks. At least with Trey, it's understandable. He's this project. Mac, the whole thing was he's ready-made. Hell, he might be better than Jimmy or the same as Jimmy, but you would have been stuck. And I understand Kyle. Like, I'm not just fucking giving Jimmy away.
Right.
So you're just kind of in a tough spot. I actually think, looking back, why Kyle was edgy, remember in some of those press conferences? Just because I think he was edgy from the way the Stafford thing happened, and then all of a sudden Deshaun is no longer available because no one can trade for him in that situation. He felt like, I might get fucked, right? And just be left with Jimmy.
Yeah, when you think about it, right, what are the Niners in quarterback situations at this point? Let's talk through their batting average. Are they 1 for 5? Like, he wanted Cousins, but they did get Jimmy. That was big.
Well, so were we giving him misses? I remember he didn't even watch Mahomes or
Yeah,
Watson.
I mean, that's an offer. Then he missed. Deshaun Watson can't happen. Misses on Stafford. The Brady thing made the wrong choice. And Rodgers. So they're like 0 for their last 4.
Also, listen, they landed Jimmy because Belichick called them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, that was a quarterback thing that broke their way. It's not their fault that they couldn't get Deshaun. But, like, by the time, to your point, you got to a few days before the draft, they were 0 for Brady, 0 for Deshaun, 0 for Stafford. Then he's like, am I really drafting a quarterback third and, like, doing this juggle with Jimmy? Like, I'm trying to, I'm working 2 phones at the same time trying to trade Jimmy, but maybe I'll keep Jimmy depending on if I draft that quarterback or that quarterback. You're right. He might have just been stressed out of his mind.
I think he was.
Then the Rodgers things present itself.
Well, think about this guy. He wanted Stafford. I have that on good authority from several people. I mean, that's obvious. It's not.
I think he basically said it, right?
Yeah. So think about this. Not only does he not get Stafford, Stafford goes to the Rams.
Right.
I would say if Stafford had ended up
on kind of an inside job.
Yeah, if Stafford ended up with the Colts or the Giants or some team that doesn't impact him directly as much, that had to rattle him a little bit. McVay ended up getting him. So maybe in his mind, back to the LaFleur conversation, like, hey, man, this is just fucking, we're friends, but look at McVay. He knew I wanted Stafford. This is a war. This is football. We're trying to win, So the Rodgers thing, like, listen, he hadn't been on the top of our board, right? Because we just thought he's the reigning MVP. He called us. So they just got a little desperate in the draft, and we won't really know for years if this thing plays out, because also the other thing Trey's going to be compared to is the other quarterbacks in this draft. So if they would have had Aaron Rodgers, if they would have been able to trade pick 3 and a future second and Jimmy to him or whatever, their team would have been the same just with Aaron Rodgers. So they would be better right now. I think if they would have been able to get Stafford for 2 first-round picks, they would also be better right now.
That's got to be part of the thing that pisses him off.
They'd be better right now with Stafford, because the Rodgers thing was not really reasonable, right? The Stafford thing was, and they would have been better, but they couldn't get him, and the Rams got him, and they're 2-0. I actually think this is one of the biggest games Stafford's ever played in the NFL this weekend, don't you? At home, Bucs. I know it's early, but still.
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time he had a meaningful game?
It'd be a much bigger, and the significance of a win would be huge for him. You'd start talking about, can you guys be one seed?
Especially if he throws 3 touchdowns and he's good.
Don't you think that's got to be part of what pisses them off? Like anybody who's ever applied for a job and they see somebody else get the job and they go, no, look at my resume. My resume is better than that person's resume. And, what you can't account for is sometimes somebody just wants to work with a different person than you, even if your resume is better. Like, no, we want this other person for maybe some reasons we can't say. Maybe there are things that come into it that we can't share, but that's that. Because Kyle had to turn to John Lynch and be like, what are these guys doing? Like, I could have given him Garoppolo. He's better than Goff. We could have given him a better first-round pick than the one they got. Like, we could have given Detroit a better offer. And at the end of the day, Detroit wanted to deal with the Rams, not with the Niners, period. And they might look at it, what you said, Robert Saleh owes Kyle Shanahan. Well, maybe the new GM of the Lions owes McVay and owes the Rams organization, right?
Yeah.
And there was nothing that the Niners could have offered 15 first-round picks. There was nothing they could have done. And that probably pisses you off. It's like, what are they doing? This is malpractice. I could have given them a better offer.
But I think maybe if they would have offered something just outrageous, they probably would have been able to get him. But I think they didn't get the chance. And when you feel like you don't get the chance, that's where it's like, and like you said, this is still a human business, and these two situations are dealing with people where they knew each other. So it becomes, I think it's very easy to be in business. Like I know a lot of people in family businesses, and it can get very challenging, right? Because everything is so personal. Like in our business right now. Now some of our advertisers now, you get to know better, but we've done a lot of advertising over the years with people big companies or whatever. It's not like, it's not human to human, really. It's just transactional. And it's just very black and white. You either produce or you don't. We stay on the pot. Like, it's very easy. And I talk to some of my friends that have just worked it can get very emotionally draining. I think these things, all these people are so interconnected that it's more than business. You think you personally got fucked by people or people have relationships with. That's what makes it very, very complicated. Like, I think it's very easy for like Bill Belichick to do a deal with like the Minnesota Vikings, right? Or, the companies to do other business. Like, it's just very transactional. And I think this thing with the more of Kyle's minions out and about that are running teams and they're all interested in the same players. Like the Kyle and Pete are a good example, right? They're enemies in terms of the two teams they're on, but they have just the last 4 years been all over the same players. Like one of them cuts them, they bring them up. Seattle claims a bunch of guys, but it just feels like it's just business. Two teams, no hard feelings. They don't care about each other. But once you involve like McVay, and even Sean talked about on the podcast, like, it kind of sucks. We can't really talk during the season. Like, he was my friend, and now I can't even be friends with him. The only time I really get to bullshit with him is at the combine when we're having beers. But other than that, like, it's just, we're kind of forced to be enemies now. And they've just kind of become at peace with it. Now, they've been doing it a little longer, where I think the Green Bay thing where he jumped the shark, once you throw the curveball in, I mean, he's one of the greatest players of all time, right? It's not just like I wanted, Stephon Diggs or Jamal Adams. Like, you wanted not just our player, you wanted basically our franchise. So screw you.
My livelihood.
My livelihood, Kyle. And you wanted to give me Jimmy Garoppolo potentially in pick 3. Like, thanks.
But as it relates to Kyle, I think he is now about to embark on something that he hasn't ever really done before, right? Like, which is develop a quarterback long.
Just becoming Bill Belichick and everyone hates him.
Well, that too.
You know?
But developing a quarterback long term.
I wouldn't mind Kyle just becoming a heel like that and just everyone hates him and just out for like they're the team that they're the dark.
But I don't think he wants, like, Bill seems to like that. I don't think Kyle would like that. Kyle likes the, he likes getting on with McVay and just talking ball and talking shit. And I don't think that's the best place for him to operate from.
Even though LeBron's 1 year in the Heat where he didn't like being the villain.
Yeah, I don't think that's Kyle. I don't think he would like that persona. I think Kyle likes being, it's funny, he likes kind of being one of the guys, even though there are parts of him that are very kind of lone wolf. But I think part of this now is this is not part of the original plan. Trey Lance is now part of it. You
provide Tito's, he's there.
We hope. He's had to adjust his plan, and everybody does. Part of the deal. But I think that's what's now interesting about the next several years is you can pivot away from Garoppolo. You can't really.
They will.
And you can't pivot away from Trey Lance very easily, right? The Cardinals pivoted away from their first-round quarterback, but they got the first overall pick and they pivoted, right? Yeah. But that's not how it usually works for people.
But it's not even possible. The Niners are out. You saw it with the Texans, right? Now the Niners are not going to be in that situation, but if things turn, you are without bullets in the gun for 2 years. Like that's, I think your whole franchise. This is clear. They're all in on this kid. Obviously not necessarily this year, but just over the next 2 or 3 years, they're kind of, Trey could make Kyle's career. He could also derail it. There's no way around it.
Well, and if that's what happens, the seeds of that will be traced back to the offseason of 2020, this offseason, when they tried to get other quarterbacks and couldn't. And now sometimes, John, you get lucky. Sometimes you're the Chiefs, and you need the Bears to not draft the guy you like. You can tell everybody this was all part of our grand plan, but your grand plan fails if somebody else drafts the guy you like. Sometimes you need a bet to go off the board that you would have taken, and you take a 3-team parlay. And sometimes you need things that you thought were going to be best for you, like Deshaun Watson and Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, to not happen so you can draft Trey Lance. And you end up with the quarterback of the future.
Well, one other domino here is, obviously, once Stafford goes to the Rams, Seattle already has an all-time great quarterback, and it's pretty clear Kyler's not bad. Like, the pressure on your quarterback position in this division feels like it. And then you watch Stafford with McVay, you're like, oh, that works. And you watch Kyler, like, has he improved? It's like, goddamn, this is tough.
Yeah,
the quarterback play in the division, I'd have to go division by division, but I can't imagine Mahomes, Herbert, Carr's probably right up there.
That's up there.
It's a tough. It's as good as it gets. Well, because Russell's a Hall of Famer. Stafford, I think, could become one if he has like an unreal 5-year stretch with the Rams, and Kyler's just a dynamic young star. So the pressure on Trey Lance is immense. Whenever he gets
it's by far the most talented quarterback division. The two West, shockingly, these are the two divisions that we're talking about are the two best divisions. They're the two best quarterback divisions right now.
And aren't there records? They have all
they're combined. The West is 7-1, and the AFC West is 6-2, and the NFC West is 7-1.
So they're 13-3.
And the Niners, who don't have the best quarterback in the division, are 2-0.
Yeah,
right. Seattle, you probably would argue, has the best quarterback. They're 1-1.
Yeah.
So
Chiefs too. They're 1-1,
and the Chiefs also. Yeah, exactly, and they're 1-1. John, before we go any further, let's tell the people about this incredible opportunity for all of you. We would like to talk to you about an opportunity to eat amazing Mexican food. Puesto, Mexican Artisan Kitchen and Bar. First week on the podcast, we welcome them. Eric and Alex, they own the thing. They listen to the show. They're doing big things. Everybody that hears about Puesto that already knows about it, that we've had find out Puesto was advertising on the podcast, goes, oh my God, Puesto? Seriously? From Southern California? Yes, but not just from Southern California, John.
Well, there's one in Concord, and we'll try to get some dinner there next week. There's one in Santa Clara. So if you're going to the game this week, you could even hit it up before the game. Obviously, it's a night game, so hell, hit it up for lunch. Get there early to tailgate, Puesto, right on your way. Type it in. It's right there. Inside the stadium, Levi Stadium, It's this thing Jed had built. Got to give him credit. Built that thing. It's hard to build things around the Bay Area that it costs that much. Now, granted, he had Santa Clara fund him a little bit, but he has a lot of food in there. Puesto just happens to, I don't know, be in Levi Stadium. So you want to get yourself a taco? Here's where they're located, guy. Section 110 and Section 129. They have tacos galore. Go there and eat them. And when you do, here's like with Tito's, take a picture of your Puesto taco if you're at the stadium and tag us in the picture.
You can get the expansive taco selection at any of their locations. Over 500 tequilas and spirits available as well. In the stadiums, they got things like the chicken asada taco, which is the crispy melted cheese, the braised free-range Jidori chicken, hibiscus and chipotle tinja, avocado, piña habanero pico. People are big fans. We hear of the tamarindo shrimp taco. That's crispy shrimp. Tamarindo chili sauce, classic guacamole and cilantro. The Bang Bang Margarita is in Levi Stadium. The Puesto Perfect Guacamole is available to you. I mean, the braised short rib taco, fantastic. They're also now brewing their own Mexican lagers, which you can get in their restaurants. But handmade tortillas, did you say that? Handmade
handmade tortillas, yep. Handmade tortillas, guy.
Puesto, founded in 2012 in La Jolla, California, by a first-generation Mexican-American family. And then they just started doing work. They got what they call the trophy tacos, the perfect margaritas. Oh, the filet mignon taco. I don't know if that's at Levi's, but it's in any of their locations.
God, that sounds. I've had nothing to eat all day. I'm starving.
The fried fish and crispy shrimp taco.
I love a good shrimp taco. They have those at they're if you go to Concord, you go to Santa Clara, get the shrimp tacos.
I mean, look at this. They got potato taquitos, chicken taquitos, chicharrones.
We got to ask them if they'll just give us, just a couple $100 to play with and let's just eat.
Just spend several hours there.
Yeah.
Make it a bang at the same restaurant.
All day. Just not even move. I'm in. Puesto, go check it out. Section 110, 129 if you're going to the game this week. 110, 129. Do it.
All right. Send us pics. That's fantastic. Podcast also brought to you by DraftKings.
Our friends at DK. It's this little thing called DraftKings. You might have heard of them. They're kind of a big deal. You go to the App Store. If you have an Apple iPhone, I'm sure the phones also have app stores. And you go to this, you type in DraftKings. When you download the app, when you sign up, use the promo code HAM. We obviously have this little thing we call a daily fantasy league. We've been doing it now for over a year. Golf, right up until football season, and now we're in week 3. We have a game going right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's linked below. Go get in the game. It's linked below. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I think I tweeted it out the other day. We'll tweet it out again Friday if it's not filled up. Get in the game. It's really easy. They give you $50,000 to play with. Obviously, it doesn't cost $50,000. You use $10 to enter our game, but they give you a $50,000 salary cap, and then you just build your team within that salary cap. Mahomes might cost $12,000, but you get like a random guy like Trey Sermon for $3,500. So everyone costs different. You put your team together. It's really easy. It's awesome, and then you try to win money.
Yeah. First place in our game this week wins $450. I could even put my lineup together right here, but that goes against the rules. Oh, there's a dummy lineup there. I'm not actually using that lineup with Savannah Ahmed at running back. That's just a dummy lineup. Don't be afraid. That's not my real lineup. I have $15,000 remaining on my dummy lineup. Anyway, you can also use the desktop. You can do the desktop as well, but just use the code HAM when you sign up. New customers get a free shot at millions.
Scroll down again. Let me see that lineup.
You don't want this lineup. This lineup is not a real lineup. Again, not a real lineup.
Okay.
Lions defense against the Ravens, not a real lineup. This is just I plug one in case somehow I forget to do it. At least I got something. So that's usually my MO, my modus operandi. Promo code HAM, free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. By the way, on YouTube, John Allen says, any word from Haener? Did Allen notice that we were constantly tweeting at Jake Haener? Is that how we picked up on that?
I think he did. We hit him from every angle. Was
it that obvious?
We were proud, proud of the guy. I think all of the West Coast is proud of the guy. He represents because he does represent the Pac-12 and now a smaller school in Fresno State, which we obviously have a connection to, and the Bay, Danville. his mom's broadcaster in the Bay Area. So, yeah, I ended up DMing back and forth with him and told him, he was a little banged up. I said, hey, take your time, bro. Get a big win. We'll follow up. He said, I'm in. He said he was in. So we're just expecting, 5 touchdowns against UNLV. Keep it rolling. And then head toward New Year's 6 day. I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but
Ham live New Year's morning from the Marriott in wherever the hell the game is. New Year's 6
I don't know
game.
where they'd put the dogs, but they would put them in the worst New Year's 6
It'd be
game.
like it's always like here's TCU for you. Enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Well, Haener would light them up for 5 touchdowns.
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, give him TCU. Give him Georgia. I dare you. Everyone's talking about this Georgia defense. Let them see Haener. How many touchdowns do you think Haener could score against Georgia? 2?
6.
I was gonna go 2.
Georgia's legit defense. 3. I'll give him 3.
The dogs might struggle to block the front, so you'd have to get rid of the ball fast.
I remember what it is. Alan says he sent him a DM yesterday. That's right. We had said on the podcast, send messages to Jake Haener, public or private, and tell him you want him on the Haberman and Middlecoff podcast. That's what it was.
We alerted him.
Alan,
he knew.
Good job. Keep it going. Just don't let him, don't let him forget.
Scouting Haener from social media, I think he either tweeted it or Instagram. Just picture at a pizzeria with all of his offensive linemen. Teammate.
I watched this video. Somebody asked him, I don't know, maybe the beginning of the season, maybe it probably was in the offseason about NIL. Like, hey, man, what are you going to do? How are you going to make your money? And Haener's answer was, well, I'm just focused on football right now. So I'm not really I'm just trying to focus on football. If something pops up that works for me, then I'll do it. But I'm going to donate the money. And he already had a couple charities in mind that he would donate the money to in San Francisco. I think maybe like a Boys and Girls Club in Fresno. I think both charities he mentioned were actually, children of low-income families, that kind of thing. So it was phenomenal. Did you see the photo? So the mayor of Fresno, Jerry Dyer, who used to be the police chief.
Yeah. Ball guy.
Made like an honorary Jake Haener. I think like Monday is like Jake Haener Day in Fresno. So they gave him like a proclamation, which is it's just like a certificate. And they had a photo of him holding the proclamation. And you could tell even he's wearing like this tattered green practice jersey. He's smiling, but it's not like a full smile. He's just not feeling himself too much, which is big fans of Jake Haener. The whole package, John. The whole package.
I think there is a little humility. Historically, there was a ton of pushback from transfer portals. I actually think nowadays the way guys are doing it, it's in the what did the dude from Saturday Night Live? I'm the humblest. What was that guy's name?
Andy Samberg.
Yeah, I think when a lot of these guys that I've seen transferring, it was not because I have like this big false sense of self-worth. It was like, I'm just not playing here. I'm a good player. And you see it all around I'm noticing a lot of transfers when I'm watching them. I'm like, I'd want this guy on my team. Like I think it's changed a little bit from what it was perceived it was going to be. And I'm not saying Haener's on the high end of the character. I think a lot of guys, though, are transferring and coming in with the right attitude and immediately making impact on Power 5 teams, on non-Power 5 teams. Like I've been impressed whenever I watch a game. Washington, Cal, I guess those schools probably don't do big on the transfer portal, huh? Their guys are leaving.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback that Jake Haener thought he beat out at Washington was a transfer, Jacob Eason.
Who's their quarterback now?
Dylan Morris. He was one of their guys. Yep. Chase Garbers, we know at Cal. No look past the other day.
UCLA's running back, that big dude from Michigan.
Zach
Whenever
Charbonnet,
I watch him, I'm
portal.
like, this guy's bringing it.
A lot of portal. Hard. I think to me, the complicating thing about the portal is going to be, do you bring in a quarterback via the portal who believes that he's coming just to compete, or are you promising a guy a starting job when he arrives? Because if you're promising a guy a starting job when he arrives, Andy Dalton style, and then it's clear he's not the best player.
Did that just happen with Utah?
We don't know. I don't know that guy was promised the starting job, but that did just happen with Utah. And I can even understand it from Charlie Brewer, who had
where
been
was he coming from?
10,000-yard passer at Baylor.
Okay.
Here's his deal. He'd never redshirted. So as long as he played 4 games or fewer this year, he was going to get another year of eligibility. But John, you know this. You have to make that decision before you appear in your 5th game. If you appear in your 5th game, you can't redshirt that year. So he left after 3. He can still redshirt this year and play somewhere else next year and add another year. So as shitty as it looks, like, oh, this guy quit on his team. And from the inside, I don't blame them for feeling that way. I also understand him. Like, I'm going to sit on the bench. I might play 2 snaps in 2 other games, and now my career's done.
He got benched.
He got benched during their last game.
Okay. So it's understandable. Here would be my thing, big picture on that type player. Because I'd say historically that type player is the thing coaches in college and like the NFL community always red flags. It's like, well, you transferred, you weren't good enough at a program that's not like Trevor Lawrence is coming up the pipe. And now you're transferred again. So he's your classic, like he's going to be on 3 separate teams in 3 years.
I'll give you another one, though, that has worked out is San Jose State's quarterback, Brent Brennan, rising star, friend of the show. Brent Brennan was on the show. Nick Starkel had been at A&M, Mississippi State, then San Jose State.
Okay.
It was his third program.
But at least they've had, pretty good quarterbacks.
I think these things are so individual. It's from the outside. Yeah. It's always easy to be like, that guy got screwed or that guy's a jerk. And it's
but the Brewer one, like he was named the starter, right? When the season started.
Named the starter.
And then he got benched because he wasn't playing very well.
Yep. And then left.
Now it's weird fit a little bit. Like when I think Utah, I don't think like transfer quarterback from Baylor. That's not like him and Whittingham. I could just see philosophically thinking about football a little differently. Like he wants to throw it. Whittingham wants to play win the game 20-15. Like it's just a little.
Yeah. The irony is they kind of spread the ball around in their first game. It looked pretty good. And
that's what they were trying to do.
Maybe. I don't know. It wasn't working at San Diego State. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the guy that replaced him is better necessarily, but has been in the program for 3 years. People love him. Cam Rising's the guy.
Well, they signed Charlie Brewer for a reason, right? They
That's
thought
right.
It was a huge upgrade.
And it might have been that other people wanted Charlie Brewer, and so they had to promise him he'd be the starter. I don't know that, but 10,000-yard passers don't just appear in the portal all the time.
You use the Andy Dalton comp. I actually think it's less crazy in college with a guy like Charlie Brewer to promise him he'd be the starter. I feel like that happens a decent amount with some of these transfer quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think you think when Haener got to Fresno State, they're like, you got to earn the job? And they're like, no, you're the dude, bro. But it happened with Burrow. Remember Ed Ogeron's like, I need you here.
Yeah, there's a difference between like, hey man, I'm telling you right now, you come here. I mean, there's nobody's beating you out here.
Yeah.
Right? But there was like a competition at Utah in the offseason. It was not like they had a quarterback competition.
And he won it.
And Brewer won it, right? Jake Haener understood probably. Jeff Tedford loves me. Like, yes, like this is.
I guess the crazy part about Brewer, is like he's cleaning out his locker. He's like leaving, right?
Yeah, just go. Like Monday got Saturday got benched. Monday told him he wanted out. Tuesday he cleared out.
So it's like I'm leaving. Like I'm no longer a resident here. Like,
and you could be like, dude, that was selfish. And he'd be like, well, would it be not selfish? So I should be not selfish, just hang around and play out the last year of my career and then never play college football again. That would be
as Pat Hill told me, or maybe he said this out loud. I don't know. As the story goes, you don't even quite remember how it happened. The only one who truly cares about you is you. Might have said that in a meeting and I overheard it. I don't know, but in my mind, he said it to me. It's probably not the case, but I've been using it for like a decade.
People, yeah. All right, John. Let's move on. Other things. This week, the Las Vegas Raiders can improve to 3-0. And, in all likelihood, will still be one of the 2 unbeaten teams in the AFC if they do that. They're playing the Miami Dolphins, who, full disclosure, I wanted to take the Raiders -4 as a lock of the week. Not wanted to, I shouldn't say that. Considered it more than you. But I think in your defense, like the Dolphins, even though they've got some flaws offensively with their quarterback situation, they are a good defense. And this would be another, just like week 1 and week 2, pretty impressive win for the Raiders. This is another team that people looked at, just like the first 2 teams they played, as a playoff team in 2021.
They are missing one of their advantages that they would have won the game if the guy would have stayed in last year. Into Tagovailoa. Who is not going to play this week. Espinosa. Do you know that guy's like 6'5", 280? The guy that landed on him? I was like, no wonder you couldn't see Tua, because that guy is massive. So you might want to block the guy that's 6'5", 280 coming at your little quarterback. I tweeted out earlier this week, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but not really. Who would the Raiders rather play? Jacoby Brissett, who, listen, he's not, a great player by any means. He's an average starter at best historically, but he's played in a lot of games. He has a lot of experience, and he has won NFL football games where he has been the starting quarterback for multiple weeks back to back to back. Or Tua, who before Espinosa landed on him, clearly looked a little bit over his head, who they personally had success against last year. So my first thought was like, that Tua injury, not ideal. Like if the Raiders could choose Tua or Jacoby, I think they choose Tua. Do you agree there? Could be argued. Like I don't think it's like black.
Yeah,
and white.
I do think
Rodgers,
they would take Tua.
Tim Boyle.
The reason I hesitate is because I do think the Dolphins' offensive line has trouble. They're making a switch at left guard. That guy, Liam Eichenberg, that we thought the 49ers wanted from Notre Dame, is going to start at left guard. He had already started at left tackle because Austin Jackson, week 1, was not back from the COVID list in time. And then last week they had a disaster on their hands when the undrafted free agent, whoever the guy at right tackle from Idaho is, couldn't. In fairness, AJ Epinesa is a very good player.
Yeah,
very good player. But my point is, if you thought Tua was athletic enough to get away from NFL pass rushers, you might think, you know what, Max Crosby coming off that edge, I need a more mobile quarterback.
Tua's more. Jacoby's a bad athlete.
Then Jacoby. That is the one thing that makes me hesitate. Is like when Max Crosby comes flying around the left edge, is Jacoby Brissett going to be able to get away from him? And you'd say, well, would Tua be able to? The answer might be no on both accounts. So you're right. After thinking it through, I think they'd rather play Tua. The Raiders
on a big picture standpoint, when the schedule came out, we thought, and I think most people thought, beside Raider fans, the Raiders are probably staring at 0-2. Right? I mean, the Steelers, even with Ben is now hurt. He's got a pec injury. You see that? But he was they hurt him. But definitely the Ravens game, even though it was at home, that was viewed as very hard. And it was, but they won it. And then obviously they won last week. And they're 2-0, which is, to me, and I guess we talked about this earlier in the week, it's got to be one of the bigger shockers. Not that we didn't think the Raiders would be competitive, because their offense has been really good, and if their defense just tackled a little bit, they could compete to get to 10 wins. But to win those 2 games in this league, win or lose, no one gives a shit how you do it, who's healthy, who's hurt, who you played. Like, they beat Ben, and they beat Lamar. And now they're staring at a team who's kind of reeling right now, who has a legit fatal flaw. Because we've seen it. You just go back to Harbaugh's last year. When you have a fatal offensive line flaw in a tackle or just a key opening in your offensive line that you like, I would do anything to replace this guy. When I was in Philly my second year, Jason Peters tore his Achilles. At least what I was told. It might not have been in his kitchen. It wasn't good, and he missed the season. And we just had to get some random guy, but we couldn't replace him. And when you can't replace a really good player at tackle or can't find good offensive linemen, it ruins everything you have. Like, unless you have Rodgers or Mahomes, you cannot overcome it. And, like, even Mahomes, once they played a really good team in the Super Bowl, like, you can't overcome it. So, to me, if their offensive line is clearly, let's just say it becomes one of the worst units in the league. Like, we look back at the end of the season, the Dolphins win 6 or 7 games, and they go, we had a bottom 5 offensive line. That would be understandable why you suck, right? You cannot have a bad offensive line without an all-star quarterback and consistently contend. You just can't, because too many teams, like Max Crosby, will kill you.
Yeah, and it might be that kind of the Andy Dalton theory, right? The explanation for starting Andy was the offensive line sucks. Put a guy behind it that at least maybe can make quicker decisions than a rookie. Tua's not a rookie, but maybe in some ways you'd rather have, to your point, him back there because of that. But regardless of who you'd rather have, either way, I'd say the same thing. The Raiders should win this football game.
Well, they're favored, and I think they should too. Now, the one thing to keep an eye on this week, the Dolphins' strength, Xavier Howard, who they inherited. They didn't, but he was already on the team. He's a really good corner. And Byron Jones, who they signed from the Cowboys. Like, they just have a couple good DBs. And the Raiders' strength, I would say, through the first couple games, those 2 wide receivers that they drafted last year look pretty sweet. And it's actually like the perfect kind of ebb and flow. One guy's a big, strong kind of playmaker over the middle. The other guy's one of the fastest guys in the league. Like, I mean, I'm watching Edwards and Ruggs and go, those guys are sweet. Well, when you got good DBs, can you just neutralize them a little bit? Jacobs, last I saw it yesterday, he didn't practice. Like, he might not play this week. So, they signed Kenyon Drake to some money. He's a good player, but if you can't throw the ball as consistently, now you always have Waller. Can the Raiders just win a low-scoring game? And I think eventually, kind of like they did last week, right? It was just a physical. Derek made a couple plays, and that was really the difference in the game. Rewatching, because watching the Niner game, I wasn't as locked as on the Raiders. Derek made a couple throws that weren't like touchdowns or whatever, that were just like, damn, that looked like Derek of the Musgrave MVP type year. He hit this one down like just the seam to Renfro that was like he had a little time. Renfro was probably 20 yards down the field. Derek's probably 7 or 8 yards behind it, so it's a 30-yard strike. Woof! And Renfro kind of had to jump, and it was just like, that's a high-level fucking play.
Yeah.
Derek's got some mojo going.
He's done it now 2 weeks in a row.
Just to let it rip, and you're like, God, this is the Derek that I remember when he's playing well. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, he's done the wow, only 5 other guys in the league can make that throw, multiple throws in back-to-back weeks. Look,
like Kyle would die to have Jimmy be able to do that. I mean, he just doesn't have the arm.
He would do that trade right now. The Dolphins got a lot of credit for like Sam Hinkieing it up, but the picks have to hit, and the offensive line thing's a problem. They drafted Jalen Phillips over Gregory Rousseau. Rousseau's got 3 sacks for the Bills. Phillips has played 40 snaps on the defensive line.
Was he the concussion UCLA Miami
UCLA transfer, retirement transfer? Yeah.
Had played like 6 years, but was still young. It was kind of weird. Or was he old?
I thought
he was like 24. Maybe you're right. I thought he was like, how is this guy 22? He's been in college football for like 7 years.
Jalen Phillips, 1 spot after Leatherwood, 22 years old. Yeah.
How about Austin Jackson? I mean, I remember that being pretty like, whoa, didn't see that one coming, right?
Because that was a developmental pick, but very high.
They took him like 19. It's like, what are we doing here?
So this is another one where it's just a full credit win. And then guess what? The next week, the Raiders play another team that is just a full credit win. The LA Chargers in LA.
If you had to pick one of these next 2 games to win, you would clearly pick the Charger game because it's a divisional game. And I don't think Miami is going to compete to win the playoffs as currently constructed.
Right.
But that's not the way teams like, well, I want to win this week and I want to win next week. It is, if you start 3-0 going into that game, regardless what the Chargers do against the Chiefs, that game will be pretty hyped because like the whole storyline will be like, is Gruden and the Raiders for real? And I think the answer would be, I don't know how good their defense is. Baldy, I saw tweeted out a couple days ago, a picture of, the all 22. And the safety they drafted from TCU was just, way back, right, where a safety would be. Jonathan Abram was basically a yard behind the linebackers. And Baldy was like, you can see the Gus Bradley influence right here. The dude is up close to the line of scrimmage. And it was like a quick out route from Ben to either Juju or one of the wide receivers. And Abram was just close. And it was, boom, he fucked him up. And he caught the ball, but it was like, Baldy's like, this is why they went to this defense. If you can resurrect and make Jonathan Abram a productive player, which he has not been because he's been such a big hole, right? He's been giving up so many plays. If he can just help you win, that's a huge element. They do need to me, though, for them to really be successful, Jacobs is a blue chipper for them, right? Like when they play games and Jacobs is healthy, he's always one of the better players on the field.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, for them to maximize their ability, because ultimately their defense, while playing much better, still is not, the 85 Bears of personnel. But their offense, when healthy, can be. Because Jacobs a blue chipper, Waller's a blue chipper, Derek's playing like a Pro Bowler, and those wide receivers just have Renfro's a big-time slot guy, and the other guys, one guy has size and the other guy has elite speed. Like, that is a pretty unreal unit, skill-wise.
It's pretty, I would call it even complete.
Kenyon Drake complete. Is your backup running back? I mean, that's
complete.
Low. Yeah, it's
just complete. I mean, it's complete. It has no holes.
Hater.
You're the hater. I've heard a few coaches say this. I'm sure you have. I don't ever want to hear in a meeting about what a player can't do. Right? And to me, what you just described with Jonathan Abram
it's like, hey, coach, you can't run. So, what do you want me to tell you?
So we put him by the line of scrimmage and we make him a middle linebacker. Yeah, can't run is a problem. But in other words, like, he's on our team. So how are we going to put him in position to succeed?
Not just
This
on
guy
our
can
team. We invested, Amari into him.
We invested, yeah.
So that's a positive.
Yeah, Amari, I forgot to mention you. Good point. They're in a position that few other teams are, and you saw this the other day, and we were going to talk about this the other day, but we're getting to it today. The odds of the last remaining unbeaten team, there aren't many left through 2 weeks. The Niners, the Rams, the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Bucs, the Panthers, and the Raiders. That's it. Now, we know the Rams or the Bucs will lose this week because they play each other.
These odds are a little off to me because, these are the odds, but they don't make much sense because the Niners play the Packers, who are, they do have Aaron Rodgers and a really good team. The Cardinals play the Jags. So this was on DraftKings Sportsbook, but that to me feels like much better odds. I think, I don't know if it's just because the Niners, are a public team. I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense to me. I actually think the Raiders, now, ultimately the Dolphins, remember last year they didn't have wide receivers. This year they got Waddle and Fuller's back. They do still have good players, and they are I know they just got their ass kicked, but you saw week one, like they can be feisty. Hell, they won 10 games last year with this coach and a lot of the same personnel. So it's not, the Raiders could lose this game. Because if I told you when the season started, they start 2-0, that would be a win, right? Just big picture. Like it would suck to lose this game, but any Raider fan would have signed up for 2-1 100% when the season started.
Yeah. Gruden's always talking about quarters. So if you could be 3-1, you're not planning 4-0 at any particular time. But for those of you that are only listening to this, the Niners, the favorites at plus 275, then the Bucs at plus 300, then the Rams at plus 400, then the Panthers and Broncos at plus 600, then the Raiders and Cardinals at plus 1,000. And I think for me, the question is, are this team we've been watching, is that the Raiders? Because if that's the Raiders, then they're better than the Dolphins, and they might be better than the Chargers.
Well, and it's going to turn into a home game, right?
And that's going to be a home game.
A lot of silver and black.
Like, to me, then, I think they're better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the next 6 teams they play. Dolphins, Chargers, Bears, Broncos, Eagles, Giants. Now, not everybody you don't just beat the teams you're better than and only lose to the teams better than you. We know it doesn't work like that. But I'm with you. Like, they would be the value here.
One thing, whoever wins between Tampa and LA, that team is going to be feeling pretty good. I think on the power rankings, like if one of those two teams wins by 10 plus points, it would be hard to not put them number one, right?
Yes.
Tampa would
that you have to
clearly
put
be
whoever wins that game number one.
Yeah, and if the Rams win, and I think it's fair to say if they win, Stafford would probably look good. They would be feeling pretty good. So if the Niners can beat the Packers, all of a sudden one of those two teams is a lock to be undefeated, right? Because they play each other. So then if the Niners win, like they're just kind of keep and serve with whoever the other one is. Now, I think you'd rather, if the Niners would choose, they want the Bucs to win. We'll just deal with the Bucs later. We don't play them, but like we can't control what they do. We want the Rams to lose games.
Yeah.
So they'll be rooting for the Bucs. And if you're the Raiders, even with the Broncos, they're just not going to lose. I would say if they lost to the Jets, that'd be the biggest upset so far this season, right? Clearly, 10-point home, mile high. All of a sudden, Zach Wilson wins. That'd be pretty crazy. I have a hard time seeing the Broncos losing this week.
I do too, except for again, I think their ceiling is low. But
as of recording this, the Panthers, are huge favorites against Davis Mills. Has a long neck. See that picture of him?
I didn't notice it. I've seen him many times until I saw the side-by-side with Mike Glennon. Davis Mills is just a big-ass guy. He's big. He's really big. Looking at this, just the exercise, you start looking ahead to schedules. I think I'll state the obvious probably, but the battle for the 1 seed and the only first-round bye, we had it last year. I think as time goes on, I feel like we didn't fully give that the credence it deserves last year.
With crowds, it's going to be big, right?
With time, as time goes on, it's just, to me, it's gonna feel, or at least it should feel a little bit like, once we start recognizing it, the way we talk about the college football playoff so early in the college football season, right? Because you just start looking at, the 1 seed. It could come down. The 1 seed could be determined this weekend between the Bucs and the Rams in the NFC. That first round bye, right? And it's a long season.
They have to handle their business in other games.
Well, exactly. There's a million things that it's just the road. There is no room for error when there's only one spot that you're battling over.
I would agree. Game. I would agree with you that home field advantage is going to feel dramatically different this January than it did last year, right?
And the
Bucs went into New Orleans and won.
Yeah. How about the bye? Just the one bye.
That's crazy. I don't totally love it, but if it was my team, I would love it.
Because you might beat the Bucs if you're the Rams, then you play the Cardinals, then you play the Seahawks. It's like, all right, well.
The NFL truly just doesn't care either way, right? Just more teams, whatever. Just make more drama.
You just can't rest. There was no rest.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They just more teams, more drama.
If you said, money, less problems. We'll get rid of the bye. Like none of it matters to them.
More money, less problems, John.
Do you see the taunting? Yesterday on Twitter, Tomlin was asked, because he voted yes for taunting. Like he was with the people that wanted taunting to go away.
He voted, sorry, be clear. He
voted for this new taunting rule. He was for it.
Okay.
Penalizing that stuff. And he said yesterday, not only did I vote for it, I still agree with it. And they asked him, well, it hurt your team last week or one of these weeks. He's like, well, yeah, they better figure it out because it's not going away. And it was clipped from, like a Steelers blog. The NFL account retweeted it. Because I was like, I was like, the NFL. They retweeted it. It was genius. This guy who's supporting them and a coach who got penalized for it said, well, it's on my guys. They better figure it out, and they better figure it out fast.
Yeah. What is the thinking here? Because it is a victimless crime, right? But does it waste time? What is it that Mike Tomlin doesn't like? It's just evidence of an undisciplined player?
One headline I read is leads to fights, even though we have not had historically many fights. So I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I get it if you're a coach. I just don't want my guys acting like that. It's things coaches have said for.
Well, what are the things? Like if I'm running and you're 10 yards behind me and I do the peace sign, that's taunting, stuff like that, right? That's what they're penalizing now. Yeah, it's stuff like that.
How are they administering that penalty? Is it a live ball penalty? If I do peace sign when I'm at the 5-yard line before in college.
Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. I don't know if that's the case. In college, the main one was like looking over the guy, right, and doing that.
In college, if you burn me for a touchdown and you're at the 5-yard line and you point at me and they throw a flag for taunting, you do not get the touchdown that you score. And
where's
it's
the ball
15 yards from the spot of the penalty.
So if you call it at the 2-yard line, we go to the 17-yard line?
Yeah.
Have you called a game where that happened?
I have not had that happen. No, I've not seen it happen. I think I've seen it happen once.
I feel like the coach would kill the player.
Yeah, it came in a few years ago, and you almost never see it. It's like the players know. I've seen a couple that it's like if the ref wanted to throw that flag, they could have.
One thing in my time in football, which feels like decades ago, I vividly remember Coach Hill used to do this in college because the rules change in college, just like they do in the pros. There's just not it's not like a competition committee and the coaches are involved. It's like a governing body or whatever. The referees come in, they hammer it home, and then you do periods in practice. It's no different in the NFL. How many times do you think in training camp, in every facility, this came up? Once every other day? I mean, these things are hammered home. Now, in the heat of the moment, sometimes I don't think guys consciously go, fuck it, I don't care on this one. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get killed.
You're DJ Reed, you're step for step with Julio Jones, you make a play on Julio Jones, you were cut 2 years ago. And you just yell at them because you guys have been talking trash the whole game. That's the thing. It's like most of these things don't just come out of the blue. It's a continuation of what happens through the whole game. Michael Anderson on YouTube says Bucs will be the last undefeated team. Their division sucks. They do play the Bucs play the Patriots on October 3rd. Get ready for that. Then they play the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Bears, the Saints. Yeah,
so the Patriots the Bucs get a bye and then they play.
The Bucs this week is the 26th, so the 3rd is on schedule.
Oh, the 3rd is next Sunday. Okay, gotcha.
Next Sunday is. So yeah, look, you could argue
that's Sunday Night Football, right?
Sunday Night Football. Yeah,
that a pretty big moment in football history.
It's as big as it gets. You could argue that this is the best team the Bucs will play all year. Maybe the Bills, but the Bills game is at home for Tampa.
You could argue this really might not influence home field because the Bucs are going to be able to rack up wins while the Rams are battling it out with Seattle, the Niners, and Arizona.
Right.
They're like, oh, we get I guess the Panthers, we'll see tonight, could be okay, but they're not on the Bucs level. The Saints, I saw a great meme. It was like it was a tombstone, and it said Jameis's MVP candidacy, and it was like week 1 - week 2.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
That's pretty good.
That was good. I think it had the specific dates, of the 2
That's
games,
good.
but it was like, that's a good one.
All right. Before we get to Justin Herbert, John, let's tell the people about Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM right now. Manscaped.com, promo code HAM. Get you 20% off and free shipping.
No one wants to see a mess down there. And here's the thing. That's why they created the Lawnmower 2.0, the Lawnmower 3.0, and now they have the Lawnmower 4.0. And the performance package, as you see here if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening, we've told you all about it. The Lawnmower 4.0, the best of that they've ever created. It's got, didn't you say a wireless charging ability?
That's right.
I mean, I know that's humanly possible, but I mean, it just shows you technology.
Well, you dock it.
That's what Manscaped is operating under. And then also the nose hair trimmer that comes in this package. Guy got sent one. I got sent one. We both got nose hairs. Older you get, it feels like the longer they get. And you do not want to use tweezers. You use the nose hair trimmer, and they go away. So you can shave your man region, your balls, and you can trim your nose hairs all in one in one operation, all because of manscaped.com. Promo code HAM, 20% off, free shipping, no big deal.
Lawnmower 4.0, John, has a 4,000K LED spotlight, okay? So when you're escaping prison and you're in the tunnel, you're like, I'm about to reintroduce myself to the world. I can't come out here all bushy. Let me clean up before I hit the river and wade my way through the sewage. Whatever the circumstances are, though, a little stealth trimming. Manscaped.com. Promo code HAM. Unlock your confidence. As always, use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping. Go get it. Big week for Justin Herbert. We've been talking about Justin Herbert since before the NFL draft. We both watched every game he played at the University of Oregon, and it was clear very early on that he had extreme NFL talent. And one of the reasons it was so important, you advocated for him to play right away last year before Tyrod even got hurt. I thought one of the reasons it was so important.
Hurt would be one way to put it.
Yeah, before they injured him. Yeah. But one of the reasons I thought it was so important last year for any rookie quarterback to play ultimately was it was such a unique opportunity to be able to play in not 100% an NFL environment. You weren't playing in front of crowds, but now you are. And Justin Herbert isn't just playing in front of any crowd this year. Justin Herbert is playing in a divisional game against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in one of the greatest environments in all of sports, Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at last year, it doesn't really count, and he was awesome just because of the no fans. Week 1 was a big game and a big win, I'm sure, in a raucous environment with the football team. That they were feeling themselves. They thought they had a playoff level team. That was loud. To me, this is on a completely different level. You're playing the multiple back-to-back AFC champs, Super Bowl champion 2 years ago, and a divisional game. And I don't quite feel – it's weird with the Chargers, right? Like, there is legit hatred. Chiefs, Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, back and forth, right? Those rivalries feel real. The Chargers are kind of in it, and it does feel natural when they're all playing the Chargers, but the hate I don't feel is there, right? Like when I was in the NFC East, you hated the Giants, you hated the football team, who were the Redskins at the time, and the Cowboys. Like, they all four, like, we're all enemies, right? The Chargers just kind of involved. They feel like they're in it. I do think it gets added to another level when they're good. And when we were younger and the Phillip Rivers was really young, remember some of those LT low kneel teams? That was like, they were kicking everyone's ass. When they're bad, no one really, just like, oh, let them be. Let's do the fun Chargers, cool little powder blues. The Chiefs guy are coming off, I would say, one of their most devastating losses under, Andy Reid since he's had Mahomes as quarterback, just because they were kicking their ass. And it's one thing to just lose a random game where a team comes back on you. It is a foe for them, right? in Baltimore. This is a team they're going to probably have to see again potentially. And it's just another player who's on your level who just single-handedly made your defense look pretty terrible.
It's a heavyweight fight, and losing heavyweight fights usually has a physical toll.
Yeah, it sucks.
An emotional toll.
I think one of the reasons, as I was talking with a buddy on the Chiefs, he's like, we missed, when you watch the all-22, missed a million tackles. So it's this team, like Herbert doesn't, like Lamar created that. To beat this, like for Herbert to go into Kansas City and win, he'll have to throw for 350 yards.
Lamar ran for 100 plus.
And it was just down the stretch, first down after first down, touchdown after touchdown. It was crazy. I honestly, that second half, I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like that from a running quarterback in the league. That was stupid. So that's not going to be the case with Herbert. Now, can he just slice him and dice him? Well, the Chiefs are like, okay, they've never been a defensive-oriented team. Our guy will just throw for more. So can you outduel Patrick, right? Who, on his standards, and this is, once you become on his level, like that was a down game for him. And he was still pretty good. Like most players would sign up for that, what he just did against the Ravens. But he's going to come out, and that team is going to come out to try to put up about 35. And maybe they don't quite get that, but I saw Bosa was kind of dinged up. It's hard to tell once the season starts with some veteran players. Like, are they giving him a couple, easing him in, and then they end up playing on Sunday?
Right.
You know, you never truly know till Sunday with position guys, especially defensive linemen. But I do think Herbert, for them to win this game, he's going to have to play like Patrick Mahomes, which he has before in empty arenas when he was throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns and set the rookie. It's going to be tough. That place is going to be loud.
Well, look, when we start talking about you like
it'll be the loudest game he's ever. I guess he played that Auburn game, huh?
But that was Jerry World neutral site. I don't know that was, there were Oregon fans there.
Because the loudest place he's ever played in would be his home place, and that was always pro.
And their crowd is great. They're very quiet when your team has the ball.
He doesn't have to do this.
He doesn't have to do that on the goal line, Nate Peterman.
Derek too.
When we start talking, when you're on the path to be great, winning matters very quickly. And remember last year, Justin Herbert, literally his first game, he got on the map with the way he played against the Chiefs. He played really well on last-second notice against Kansas City and lost 23-20. But he played really well. And that was the story of the year. The story of the year was the Chargers could not take advantage of having this great quarterback and have it translate to wins. So they changed coaches. And now the conversation changes a little bit. Like, all right, we think you're elite. You and I think, it's clear. Anybody could watch him and go, most guys don't look like that.
I wouldn't say he's elite yet. I would say he's elite
skill.
talent.
He has elite talent. Yes. We think you can be that. Does it translate to wins, right? With the Bills, and Josh Allen constantly gets used as the example because it just 1 year built on the next year, bam, let's roll. And what happened coming into this year now? It's like, all right, Buffalo, like, are you really a contender? Like, are you really going to take the next step?
Saw a headline this week, Josh Allen, like, I haven't played well. We all know it.
This was I thought one of the big storylines coming into this year was there are people shorting Josh Allen because last year was so historically great. Like, did he just have the best year of his career last year? It doesn't matter if he does, if the Bills go to 4 AFC championship games in the next 13 years or whatever. Pick the numbers, right? If they just win and they're true contenders and you watch him and you think that team can win in the playoffs, then it's fine if he just had the best year of his career. Because ideally, your quarterback doesn't have to just carry you every year. But can you win games? And this is one where
they have to a little more once you start making $43 million a year.
That's true. Yeah. That's Allen got paid that way. Mahomes got paid that way. Herbert's gonna get paid that way.
That's where you can really take advantage. And I do think there's pressure if this kid's gonna be not Mahomes, but if he just becomes Josh Allen, you have to at least. And the Bills, they got to an AFC championship game and they made the playoffs here before. Like, they've been having success. To not make the playoffs when you have this rookie quarterback who's clearly pretty talented, and it's not going to be made or broken this weekend because you're on the road against Kansas City. Even if you won 4-2 in the division, this would be a lock, one of your losses, right? What are the chances that Kansas City goes 3-0 in the division at home, right? Denver, Kansas, Chargers, Raiders. Like, they're going to be favored in all those games. Now, remember last year the Raiders won at Kansas City.
Yeah, their defense isn't great. They could definitely just lose a shootout.
Their defense is not good. Their
against the
defense
Chargers
is
or the
not
Raiders.
good.
No.
Frank Clark is MIA. They don't have, beside Chris Jones, and the front seven's not great. Their best linebacker is a rookie. They're just not that good on defense. But they would say we haven't really been good on the defense the last couple of years. We just need to play okay because our offense is elite.
And I'd argue, well, you won the Super Bowl. Your defense was improved over the previous year, right?
Yeah, and it was really good down the stretch. So I do think there is some, just chinks in the armor for a powerhouse squad, which they have the ultimate trump card. We have the best quarterback every time we take the field, and as long as Hill and Kelsey are there with them, we like our chances, and they should, right? But
Chargers,
this could be an early moment. Remember, Mahomes had some early moments in his career where it's like, Jesus, I remember his first game as a true starter was on the road against the Chargers at Home Depot. And it was like, what the fuck is this? And then it just, and he did it against fans. That's where I think some of the antennas are out on Josh Allen last year, historic year, no fans. Herbert last year, unreal, sets this record, even though records are going to keep falling with young players, right? That's
what you would say if you don't think Baker's good, yeah. Because he broke Baker's record.
But even Baker's was inflated. It's like,
no,
okay,
I know.
Marino
Look,
I'm not expecting
Justin
to win,
Herbert.
but I think he could have a great game and earn a bunch of respect, even in an L that's at like they lose 35-30, and he's awesome. Like, okay, we got a chance.
No doubt. But Justin Herbert's the quarterback of the Chargers for many more years. Do they have their coach? Like, winning games is going to determine if they have their coach, because Anthony Lynn's staff made Justin Herbert look great, and that didn't get them anything. They got Anthony Lynn the job as Jared Goff's offensive coordinator in Detroit, right? So they'd have their quarterback. The question now is, do they start winning games, and do they have their coach? The Browns, credit to Baker, he fought through the muck to get to Kevin Stefanski. Now they got it figured out, right? So, do they look like they belong does their team look like it belongs? We think it should. There's no reason for it not to. But now it's a Brandon Staley thing, because ideally you got a great defensive coach. He can win you some games where Herbert's not great.
Yeah. And they got good defensive players. So it's like, as long as Bosa and Derwin James is on the field, they should be really good. I mean, part of the reason you hired him, right, was because you thought he was a good coach. But defensively, he was elite with the Rams. And he's a Fangio guy. He's viewed as one of the better defensive minds in the league. Remember, Riddick told us, of all the guys he talked to, Brandon Staley was like a genius.
Right.
I had a buddy that worked with him. Was like, yeah, he's really, really smart. And you just hear him talk. He can be a little cheesy for me, but it's just, maybe it's just him. I think sometimes I have to catch myself, like, is this guy being cheesy or just who he is? It's about, like, Russell Wilson. Maybe it's just kind of who Russell is, Because I saw him give this talk about his mental coach that died. And it was like, I just think some people
Trevor
are just
Moat.
different. Yeah, just different maybe than me or you or whoever. We're all just kind of different. I just think sometimes when you're not a cheesy person, you see cheesy, you just expect this guy's a fraud or this guy's faking it.
Is it
and
real?
Maybe Brandon Staley is just being true. That's just who he is. Some guys are just, and I mean, I think there's just pressure anytime that you get, especially when you inherit this. Like, that's a pretty good job, right? I mean, that's, like, looking back, like, Jacksonville's a good job because you had the number 1 overall pick and this high prospect, but the job itself was pretty shitty. Team sucks. You don't have much talent. It wasn't even close. We talked a lot about this, and clearly he wasn't interested. And maybe the Chargers weren't interested in paying him. What would you guess? Urban Meyer makes like $12 million a year, but he makes a lot, right? Whatever the Jags paid him.
You think it's 12?
I was going to guess 12, yeah. Like 5 for 12 or something.
Yeah, I would have guessed like 9, 10.
Because his leverage would be like, yeah, I don't really want to do it. And they were somewhat desperate to just get some, like, a name. And it shows you how that works out. It doesn't automatically work. But Brandon Staley's much cheaper than – he definitely doesn't make as much as Urban makes. But his situation –
I always heard Urban didn't want to be in LA. Like, I do think location, it made a lot of sense
for sure. So it's like, hey, we'll give you 9.5, no state income tax. It's the same as if they would have paid you 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But this is an opportunity for Brandon Staley to, like, change his career. I think it turned out once McVay got to the Rams, like, whoa, we got Aaron Donald, Goff, Gurley. Then we draft cut. Like, we signed Robert Woods. Like, we put together a team immediately, and I was just ready. Some teams like Gruden got there, he had to do some moving and shaking. Kyle had to like set it. Every team's a little different when you inherit it. LaFleur with the Packers, when you do get the opportunity, you do kind of got to strike, because then that builds up your equity with your, whether Chargers really have fans, but like with the guy that pays you, and it can lead to like a longer career and them help you go through some of the shittier times.
I also think it's good with a young quarterback to take pressure off of their careers early and just let them know, like, you're in a good spot. You don't have to be perfect every week. Like, we're supporting you. I think that's important for a young quarterback to understand. Like, it's not my job.
Saying with the defense or just
with the defense and with an organization? Like, it's not my job to go throw 4 touchdowns, no picks every week.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's a lot of pressure every week when you're playing Alabama every week, in the words of Urban Meyer. That's just a lot. Like, I don't think, if you're a quarterback, you should not step on the field thinking, I have to be perfect today or else we lose. And that's kind of what it felt like last year with Miami.
You think Deshaun Watson thinks his teammates remind him of playing Alabama? That's who they lost to week 1, the Texans. He's like, Vic, we're playing Alabama every week. I was like, you played the Texans week 1, bro. You didn't just play the Packers and Seattle back-to-back weeks. Even Vic's face was like, yeah, man. Yeah.
Vic kind of laughed like Vic kind of laughed like, yeah, bro. Welcome to the league.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the Nick Sabans when it comes to defense. That's probably what Vic's thinking. It's like, I've been running circles around offenses my whole career, man.
Hey, man, I've been here for 30 plus years. Welcome to the show, champ.
I think he's thinking, like, it's not just the players, there's more Nick Sabans, and I'm one of them. That's what Vic's thinking.
Yeah.
I'm one of the Knicks.
Kick your ass.
Yeah. I'm gonna shut you down, man.
But you get the opportunity to. But here's the thing with the head coaching opportunity in the NFL, probably more than college. You get your shot. You never know when your shot's going to come. Vic, Arians, we've seen some recent ones. Vic, Arians, and Zimmer were guys that had incredible resumes that were so highly thought of, but didn't get their shot till late. And Zimmer struck, right? He got to Minnesota, and they were just pretty good. Arians was awesome, right, in Arizona. Fangio.
I never thought Fangio was going to get a job.
I don't think most people did. And it was tough. They didn't have a quarterback. But you watch the Broncos, they were never a joke. Like, it's clear he's not over his head. But now I think it's the first time where you can kind of think Vic, like, okay, I have at least a team that I can win with every week. Brandon, you will get looked down upon if you screw this up, because people are going to go, that's a pretty good situation. Look back at Mark Jackson. Remember when he got fired and Joe was like, there are 200 people in this building? They literally had 200 employees, and he said everyone hated him. It was like, that's not a good sign. But that's not ultimately what did it. What did it was Kerr came in. It was like same players, boom, 67, 70 wins, championship. Another, they lose in 7. It's like, is this like the greatest team of all time? And this guy couldn't win much. And it was a reflection of you. And he has this opportunity. And who knows, maybe this team's overrated or whatever. But I think most people in the league would be like, that's a pretty good chance. Like
yeah.
And not to necessarily, he has to win this week with Herbert, but, to go 10, like you miss the playoffs, but you better be 10-7 and miss the playoffs, right?
And you make the playoffs, and now you got a lot of equity.
A ton of equity with that franchise.
Real quick, John, because we like to do this on this day. We don't need to talk about every game, especially the ones that suck, but you want to rattle through the schedule real quick. Dun, 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 dun. Sunday schedule. This is always John's favorite part of the show. Arizona at Jacksonville. Just we can do 5 seconds on every game. Let's see if we can pull this off. Arizona at Jacksonville. Be a bad L for Arizona, John.
Yeah, you got to win that game.
We almost took the Jags plus 290 in that game. Colts, Titans, fascinating game.
What's
words.
Up with Wentz. Brett Hundley.
What?
He might start, Brett Hundley.
Brett Hundley. Who does he play for?
The Colts.
Where did Jacob Eason go? What happened to Sam Ellinger?
They split reps. I don't know where Ellinger is, but Brett Hundley is the Colts.
Brett Hundley? Let's
go.
Ravens, Lions. Obviously, we're interested in that game. Football team, Bills. Bills at -7.5 at home. That's just, I love that game. Potentially, but I could also see myself hating that game.
You'll hate that game.
If Heineke. Saints, Patriots. This is just elite coach matchup right here.
I could see Jameis throw 7 picks in this game. Sean Payton might. Taysom could be starting by week 5 at this pace.
Chargers, Chiefs, we talked about that, as we did on Falcons, Giants. Bears and Browns. Give me high fives. Justin Fields making his starting debut.
I
Not ideal.
hope he survives. Myles Garrett is going to be chasing him, guy, and I don't think they can block him.
Bengals, Steelers. Bengals are +3 in this game. Is Roethlisberger playing? Is Roethlisberger?
I mean, he's injured. He hates his offensive coordinator. Who knows?
Those games have always been pretty solid games. Dolphins, Raiders, we talked about. Jets, Broncos, we talked about. Bucks, Rams, we talked about. Seahawks, Vikings. This game, it was Minnesota +2 when we talked about it a couple days ago. When we started the podcast an hour and 40 minutes ago, it was Minnesota +1.5. Now it's Minnesota +1.
I could see the final score of this game being like 42-38. The over is clearly pretty high. I think there are going to be some fireworks there.
Feels like a game the Seahawks should win. Going to feel like a major gut punch if Seattle comes up. Both teams had gut punch losses last week. So both teams incentivized to win this week. It's going to be, if we look up, and
Vikings
the game
would be 0-3, guy.
0-3. What if it's what you described and it's like a 43-44 shootout and the Seahawks lose it again and they look up and they're 1-2? That would also feel kind of crazy. How do they got to win the Seahawks got to win this game.
Well, they play the Niners next week, right?
Packers, Niners. We've talked about that game all week long. Great game. Packers +3. And Monday Night Football will be Eagles, Cowboys, which also a good game.
That is a good game. I'm excited to watch the Mannings get
that game's either close or the Cowboys, I think, could handle them. But
you see Sirianni today?
No.
He wore a shirt. I think he had him printed, beat Dallas. And a lot of people were tweeting like this is like kind of collegiate, and his take was like, this is something I heard a lot about. There's a big rivalry, like we're going to take it really seriously. It's a little collegiate, but I give him credit. He's a lot.
Who, does he just have somebody in the office, you think? It's really nicely done t-shirt, and it's like a dry fit.
Yeah, I would imagine he just asked Lurie, and they have some people, right? And they just have him fired out to make. I don't know if I was a player if I would wear it, but I could see. I bet.
Yeah, it feels kind of weird if you're a player.
Yeah, I could see Lurie walking around the office in that thing. If he's even at the office, he might just be at home. Probably that's what I'd be doing if I was worth like $7 billion. I don't know if I'd come to the office. Everyone loves to act like they'd be George Steinbrenner and be like, "Yeah, do you understand if you were that rich, what you'd be doing? You would not just be at the facility all the time watching coaches watch tape. You would be doing fun shit."
How about one of Norm Macdonald? Since everyone went on deep dive, Norm Macdonald, because you just made me think. Like the beauty of being the owner, though, is you roll up to the front, you throw your keys, you walk in, you have lunch, you say hi to some people. You just need an excuse to put on a dress shirt that day, and then you head back home. There was one Norm. Did you see the Norm old Conan where he's like, imagine if the president was handicapped, how good his parking spot would be.
That's pretty good.
That's a good one.
That's pretty good. I honestly, if I was the owner, I don't even think I'd put on a knife. If I was going to the football office, I'd wear dry fits a lot. Jeffrey does.
Yeah.
Lurie has his shorts pulled up really high and his shirt always tucked in. And even when he's sometimes he gets kind of caught in the middle where he wears like an Eagles polo, but he wears basketball shorts and he pulls them up. The great part is I'm rich. I own this thing. No one's going to make fun of me.
Yes. I got my logo on it, right? We just ham logo gear. You had every ham logo gear you could ask for. You just wear that for every season.
I love an older guy that wears basketball type, workout shorts and pulls them up high with shirt
tucks them in. Tucked them. Yeah.
Polo very old school. It's a very old school college football coach move. Back in the 70s and 80s, that was kind of their look. Shorter shorts pulled up high.
Yeah. It's 8th grade gym class.
Yeah.
Right. It's definitely gym class. All right. On that note, thanks for hanging, everybody. Share it all. We appreciate you very much. And we'll see you back here live YouTube pregame Sunday after the afternoon games before the Sunday night football game. And anything else we need to mention?
Yeah. Stay safe.
Good one. Always good advice. Whatever that means to you, John.
Yeah, whatever that means to anybody. Just be safe. It could mean a lot of different things. I can think of 7.
We hope to hear you next time. See you next time.
Bye.